Hey, so welcome to Fun Time Travel. So I'm a planner, and I love planning cruises. I'm an over planner. Yes. I love all the details and all the stuff because for me, it's a chance to live the cruise before I go on it. I love being able to pick a cruise, figure out the places we're going, go through all that stuff. And so I think in a lot of cases it's made our trips better because then we can go with the flow, but I always have a backup plan. Now, it's possible.
I'm just thinking about all the details, all the things that you you plan before we ever go. It just kind of made me laugh. Sorry.
I enjoy it. Now, it's possible to pick a cruise, book it, go on it, not plan anything, not think about it, and just have a great time. And that's one way to go. But we always think that it's better to look into some things and sort out the details. And we'll kind of walk you through our decision-making process today when it comes to picking a cruise. So let's check it out.
So these things aren't necessarily in any particular order, not like the most important to least important. They're just there.
Just kind of what's important to you.
Right. So first off, we're going to start with picking a cruise line. Every cruise line has a little different vibe going on. It's like, what kind of experience are you looking for? Now, Carnival is a little bit on the younger end and tends to be cheaper, so you see all kinds of walks of life.
Yeah.
And they have some of the best cruise directors out there, we believe. And, it can have a reputation for being a party boat, but that isn't always the case because there are a lot of families that go on, those cruises. We've been on many Carnival cruises and, especially like right after COVID, there was not very many kids at all.
No.
And it was more of an older generation on the boat.
Yeah. But it was in September as well, which could have something to do with it.
So, just be thinking about that when you're picking a cruise line.
Now, if you move to some of the other cruise lines like Holland America is a bit nicer than Carnival. It's a bit more subdued than Carnival, and it tends to cater to a little bit older crowd, but that's not necessarily the case. I know some young folks that have gone on Holland America cruises and have had a great time. Royal Caribbean is hugely popular, has some massive and amazing ships, and it does have a fun vibe. For us, I think we probably would pick Carnival over Royal Caribbean, but not to bash you Royal Caribbean fans, because you're going to tell me right away, you're going to say, well, Carnival's the Walmart of cruising, and I'm going to say, ha-ha! Royal Caribbean's the Target of cruising. Which probably makes you feel better. I don't know. If you want to go a little higher end, something like Celebrity or Oceana, the service is a couple of steps above these other cruise lines we've talked about, and the food and it's kind of your flavor. And then you can go to another spectrum, which is the Virgin Voyages cruise line, which is an adult only crowd. So you have lots of options.
Yeah. All right, moving on. Think about what kind of cruise length you want.
72 days.
How long do you want to be gone on this vacation? We, for our very first cruise, did a 7-day cruise, and we were so glad we did because we had so much to explore on the boat, and then it also we got to hit many ports, not just go to one and be done kind of thing. For our first experience, we loved that. However, if for your first cruise you're looking for a shorter cruise, they definitely have 4 or 5 day cruises that could be a nice place to start, or even a 2 or 3 day cruise. The only thing is with those 2 and 3 days is you might want to be a little bit mindful that those shorter cruises can tend to be the booze cruises.
They also have longer 12, 15, 21 day cruises. There's some that are around the world cruises, but if you're just doing your first one, I wouldn't suggest you do an around the world cruise.
Probably not.
But hey, whatever you want to do.
Hey, thanks for watching our video. We'd really appreciate it if you'd hit that like button, subscribe to our channel, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss any of our future videos.
And for more tips and tricks and cruising information, please check us out on our other channel, Sandy Sun Travel.
And if you're looking to plan a cruise or any other vacation, head on over to sandysuntravel.com where we can help you plan your dream vacation. Plus, if you're feeling lucky, you can scroll down the page to a spot where you can enter to win a dream vacation.
So itinerary and home port are always something to consider. Where do you want to go? Are you wanting to go on an Alaskan cruise? Do you want to go to the Caribbean, Europe? This is often one of our first thoughts. And we are big fans of beaches and the sun, and so we tend to lean into Caribbean cruises, but that's just us.
Right.
Someday I do want to do an Alaskan cruise.
Absolutely.
I do. But, there's so many great places to visit. It's kind of hard to choose sometimes. But don't book a cruise solely on the fact that it will go to just one specific port, because there's a chance that that port could be canceled due to weather, due to a number of different things. So,
in fact, we're going on a cruise here shortly that they didn't change the ports, but they changed the time in the ports.
Yeah.
And the one that I really wanted to hit, the one that was, we didn't book the cruise for this one, but it definitely helped us decide on this one. Tortola in the British Virgin Islands, they cut down the time there by an hour and a half or 2 hours, and I was like, are you kidding me? Like, no, I don't want to go, we're canceling. We're not. But, so another consideration you want to think about is, where is the cruise going out of, okay? Yeah. There's a number of reasons why that's important. One, you don't want to go cruising out of, say, Pittsburgh or something. I don't know, whatever. No, but you don't want to go cruise. Maybe there's a port that's more expensive. Like, if I have the choice between cruising out of Miami or cruising out of Port Canaveral, not that I'm hating on Miami, but Miami is just so much more expensive on average. The same hotel brand might be $100 more expensive in Miami, and I'm like, hey, I can spend that money on the boat. The casinos call them.
And we have to fly in.
We have to fly in.
So we have to go. We always try to go at least a day early.
Right. If you live in Georgia, it would maybe be cheaper to cruise out of Florida. Well, it would be cheaper to cruise out of Florida than it would be to cruise out of, say, Los Angeles. So that could save you some money. Every port offers different things to do before and after your cruise as well. So you might say, look, I really do like Miami. I enjoy the vibe there, blah, 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 whatever. Then that's for you. Or if you've never cruised out of a certain port, you want to go out of that one. That's another reason to choose that port. So home port can be a big consideration. So now another thing that's always a big thing for us is price. And I assume that for most people, price is, if you're concerned about planning your cruise, price is probably a concern for you.
Yeah.
And we try to set a budget, although as we start looking at cruises, that budget is a little bit of a sliding scale. Not that we're going to spend another $5,000, but it might be that, hey, for $100 more, we can get this. You can go and you can find a deal and go really inexpensive. You can spend a lot more depending on your tastes. And don't forget that drink packages and excursions can add up fast. Or pre-cruise or post-cruise fun. Like, we went in to Port Canaveral, ironically, and we stayed in a hotel that was way more expensive than we realized, which again was okay. Mm-hmm. But all that between the dinner and drinks and souvenirs, and I think we spent $1,000 before we set foot on the boat. So, price is a big deal to us.
That was a big one.
It was.
And
when I added it up after the fact, so we try to get the best for our money. So we're always looking at different cruise lines, ships, and itineraries. So I encourage you to really look at it all.
Another factor is deciding on what time of year to go. This often goes hand in hand with price, when you're looking at the prices, because different seasons cost more, especially holidays. And another thing is weather can be a factor to think about. Hurricane season runs from June to November, and the cruise lines do try to find ways to work around the hurricanes, if and when they come. We've gone a couple times during hurricane season and never had an issue, but you never know.
Yeah.
So just be aware that your cruise could get canceled or look very different in storm season.
Yeah. Another thing that the time of year really to keep up with is kids, right? If you have kids, you got a certain time of year that you typically have to plan, right? The summer or spring break or Christmas break. Yeah. If you don't want to cruise with kids, well, those would be the times to avoid, because by and large, the most number of kids you're going to see on a ship are going to be during that spring break season, Christmas or the summer. But you can try booking, in the fall or February to avoid kids. Not that we're certainly not anti-kids, we're crazy about them, but sometimes it's nice to go on a cruise and there's just not very many kids around. Right. It changes the the feel a little
Although
bit.
I think it was our very first cruise that we went on. It was spring break.
It was spring break
and we
weekend.
had a blast.
It was
with
a lot
the
of fun.
20-something-year-old.
True.
There are tons of things to think about when planning your first cruise, and hopefully these few suggestions will help you with planning for yourself.
Now, are you considering a cruise? Are you planning a cruise? What are your key, points that'll help you figure out what you're planning? So tell us in the comments below. And then once you book your cruise, here's a video that'll help you with some next steps. Yeah. So that's it for now. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.